Metallica, tiered album ranking. Let's do this. Start off with the debut album from 1983, Kill 'Em All. Got some great tunes on this. It's got Hit the Lights, Whiplash, Seek and Destroy, The Four Horsemen. Absolutely brilliant stuff for a debut album. But I have to say, over time, the production just doesn't stand up. This album just doesn't stand up to the later albums from Metallica. I think it's a great album. Not a fantastic 10 out of 10, no skips album. But for me, it belongs on the second tier. So there we go, Kill 'Em All on the second tier. Okay, moving on to 1984, Ride the Lightning. This is where Metallica really started to find their sound. Moved to Denmark to record this album with Flemming Rasmussen. It's absolutely packed from start to finish with brilliant songs. Ride the Lightning, of course, the title track, For Whom the Bell Tolls, again, amazing song. Fade to Black, Creep in Death, and of course the instrumental Call of Cthulhu. Even the deep cuts on this album are really, really good. So we've got Trapped Under Ice and Escape, which are two brilliant songs, and if any other band released them, they'd be huge hits, but because it's Metallica, it's buried way in there and it's in the deep cuts. I've never been a big fan of the opening track, Fight Fire with Fire, but to me this album is still top drawer, in all honesty. I think it should be in the top tier here, no skips. Even though I don't think Fight Fire with Fire is one of the best songs, I still think it's a no skip album. Okay, so Ride the Lightning goes in at top spot. Third studio album, Master of Puppets, released in 1986. This was arguably their breakthrough album. Brought them from being an underground band to being a well-known band. I'm not going to say a mainstream band because that came later on. But to me, this album has no skips. Absolutely no skips whatsoever. Starts off with Battery. For years, I was never a big fan of this song, but I have to say, as the years have gone by, I really have a renewed appreciation for it. And then it goes into the title track, Master of Puppets. Of course, Metallica were doing this through all their albums in this period. The second song would also always be the title track. The third song would be like a stomping groovy track. That's the thing that should not be on this one. The fourth track would always be a ballad. That's Welcome Home Sanitarium on this one. There'd always be an instrumental song towards the back end of the album. That's Orion in this case. And you've also got Disposable Heroes, one of my favourites, Leper Messiah, and Damage Incorporated. This one again recorded in Sweet Silence Studios in Copenhagen, Denmark, and produced by Flemming Rasmussen with Metallica. It's got a fantastic cover to boot, and I think it is definitely top tier for Metallica. And I'm sorry, Ride the Lightning, but this is going to knock you out of top position because I just think Master Puppets is a better album. Okay, so then we move on to 1988 and A Justice for All. Of course, the first album that was released following the very tragic passing of Cliff Burton. Cliff passed away when the band were touring Master Puppets in Sweden, and of course it really shook the band. They decided to continue instead of disbanding, like many other bands such as Led Zeppelin. When a key member died, they decided to pack it in, but Metallica decided to keep going. They brought in bassist Jason Newsted, but on this particular album the bass guitar isn't very loud, so that was a little bit odd. This one was also produced by Metallica, but they brought in Steve Thompson and Michael Barberio, who had worked on Appetite for Destruction. Of course, Lars wanted to get into that whole sort of LA scene, and he wanted to bring these producers in, but James Hetfield wasn't happy with them, and they got booted out halfway through recording of the album, and Flemming Rasmussen was brought in to try and rescue the album. So maybe that's a reason why there were so many people involved. That might be a reason why the bass isn't very loud. Guitars are really loud, and the drums are really loud. And I think it sounds great, to be honest. It's more an internet fad, this whole thing of there being no bass. I still think there's enough low frequency from the kick drum and the low end of James' guitar, and his rhythm guitar playing on this one is fantastic. So kicks off with Blackened, which is one of my all-time favourite Metallica songs. Again, into the title track and Justice for All, Eye of the Beholder, the ballad One, and then the back end of the album we get The Shortest Straw, Harvester of Sorrow, another one of my favourites, Frayed Ends of Sanity, To Live Is To Die, which is the instrumental track on this one, and Dyer's Eve. So for me, this is again a top tier album, absolutely no doubt about it. I think it's better than Ride the Lightning, no doubt about it, but I actually don't think it's as good as Master of Puppets. Now that might change, and that always changes with my Metallica albums. I'm always changing my mind in terms of which one is my favourite at that time, and I think they all have something to offer. But for this one here, I am going to put And Justice for All in at number 2. Okay, coming in from 1991, it is the Black Album. How more black could this cover be? And the answer is no more black. Of course, Spinal Tap taking the mick there. But this album really rocks. Okay, Metallica went in to try and make an album that sounded really heavily produced. They brought in Bob Rock, who had worked with the likes of Bryan Adams, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Whitesnake, and he was brought in to make them sound like an arena rock band. They slowed down the songs. They made the songs more kind of structured, like a rock song with verse, chorus, bridge, solo. The songs were shorter than In Justice for All. The production is absolutely excellent. They worked in one-on-one studios in Los Angeles, the same studio they worked in for And Justice for All, but this time they really focused on song structures, making them, rock songs as opposed to heavy metal songs, and they focused on production, with famously Lars' drums being recorded numerous times for each track, and then Bob and the engineer Randy Staub pasting them together, or stitching them together with tape to try and make the best take. And the drums sound amazing on this album. They're absolutely fantastic. The guitars again are huge from James, and the solos are brilliant by Kirk, and you can actually hear the bass, and the bass sounds really, really good on this. So it's a typical Bob Rock production. It sounds really, really good, and yeah, I think it's an amazing album. It was my segue album into Metallica. Going through a couple of the tracks here, of course, Enter Sandman, Sad But True, Holier Than Thou, The Unforgiven, Wherever I May Roam. For me, first 5 songs, knock it out of the park. Don't Tread On Me is maybe a bit of a midpoint on the album. And then the second half, you get classics as well, like Truer Than Ever, A Wolf and Mad Man, The God That Failed, and My Friend in Misery. Nothing Else Matters is the big ballad song. I don't mind it, I actually like it. And then it finishes off with The Struggle Within, which I believe they should have just left off the album, because I don't think it's great, and it just makes the album too long, should I say. And yeah, I'm not a massive fan of that one. So Black Album, for me, for years it was always number 1, and then it always gets pipped to the post by Master of Puppets and sometimes In Justice for All. But today I'm actually going to put the Black Album in at number 1. Okay, I think it's a great rock record, and I'm a classic rock fan. I liked the Black Album first before I listened to any of the other Metallica stuff. So for me, it needs to go in at number 1 here. Okay, so there we are so far. Oh, I'll have to adjust this camera so you can get all the albums in there. I don't know if there's any more top tier albums left for Metallica in this ranking, but we'll have to see. I'll just adjust my chair here. Okay, so we're moving into the mid-1990s, and we get this album, Load. Now, this one really divided opinion, because Metallica essentially cut their hair and they put out an album of what could be just considered blues rock, hard rock songs. They were trying to also step into the whole grunge, alternative rock kind of scene. But from a popularity point of view, this album didn't really work for Metallica. Like, it might have got them a few new fans in terms of, the MTV generation, but their old school metal fans were not a fan of this album. But for me as a rock fan, I think it's a brilliant album. Again, it's produced by Bob Rock. I think he does a fantastic job on this one. The guitars are layered really well. Again, the drums, they really groove. There's a swing to this album. I think it's amazing from start to finish, to be honest. Like Ain't My Bitch, 2x4, The House That Jack Built, Until It Sleeps, King Nothing, Hero of the Day, Bleeding Me, Wasting My Hate, Mama Said, Ronnie. I actually love Ronnie. I think it's a great tune. And Outlaw Torn. So for me, this album, I actually think this album is better than Kill 'Em All. And people might give me stick for that, but I think it's better produced than Kill 'Em All. And I just think it's a great rock album, to be honest, a great blues or hard rock album. And for my money, it deserves to be in here at number 5. But it's not a perfect album. It's definitely a second tier album. There are a couple of skips on it, but it is a great album. Okay, so Metallica had made so much material in these recording sessions in the mid-1990s that they decided they were going to put out 2 albums, okay? Load, and then the following year, Reload. And Reload is the album of leftover material, shall we say. I think they kept a couple of hits just so they'd have something to kind of push the album, but it does feel like it's leftover material. Now, both these albums are maxed out on CD at around 77 minutes or something, so they're both overblown a little bit, but I think they put the best stuff on Load. So Load, for me, it's an album of 2 halves. Like, it starts off with Fuel, The Memory Remains, Devil's Dance, Unforgiven 2, and then it goes into like Better Than You, Slither. But for me, like the first 4 or 5 songs that I mentioned there are strong, okay? They're decent songs. And then the last half of the album, for me, kind of loses it. I'm not a fan of the second half of this album, Reload. So yeah, is it a good album? It's probably just a good album. I don't think it's a terrible album. We'll reserve the terrible for maybe 1 or 2 other titles, as you can guess, in the Metallica collection. But for me, Reload, it's in here. It's not a lower tier album. It's a mid tier album. Okay, it's a good album, but it's not a great album, and it's not a rubbish album. I'll just make sure I have enough tack on this to hold it up. I've done one of these before and CD started falling down halfway through. Very embarrassing. So, can't have that happening again. My tongue is firmly in my cheek. Okay, coming on here to Saint Anger, 2003. Hate this album. Remember when it came out, and yeah, the sound of the drum, that snare, terrible. No guitar solos. It's Metallica, you have to have guitar solos. What else is wrong with this album? They never bothered to clean up James' vocals or get him to take another take. James is a great vocalist, but on this one they just leave like the first take and it's out of tune, and it's just not good. The songs are overly long without like breakdowns from melodic interludes or guitar solos. So yeah, I don't like this album. Never have liked it, never will like it. I know a lot of people like it because maybe they were getting into Metallica around this time and this album means a lot to them in their youth, and that's fair enough, absolutely no issue with that. But for me, this is rubbish. It's Metallica's worst album by a long shot, and for me always will be. Okay, so we put that down there in the bottom tier. Okay, now we're moving on to into the 2000s. Metallica part ways with Bob Rock. I think it was because of this album, because of the abomination of this album. I think they had a falling out. That's never been made public, but they certainly decided to go in a different direction in 2008. So they bring in, of course, Rick Rubin from, he's worked with everyone from Slayer to Red Hot Chili Peppers to Tom Petty. Very revered producer, but he joined them, and this piece of material came out in 2008. He wanted them to get back to their roots on this one, Death Magnetic. For me, this is a hit and miss album. Okay, I know a lot of people rave about this album. It's Metallica getting back to their roots and all the rest. But for me, there are skips on this album, and I think it starts off weak. So That Was Just Your Life and The End of the Line, to me, are long, drawn out pieces of music, and they don't do anything to suck you into the album. Then it goes on to Broken, Beat and Scarred, which is the kind of groove type song which they would have had on previous albums from the 1980s. I think that's a great track. The Day That Never Comes is fantastic, one of their best ballad songs. All Nightmare Long is really good. Cyanide is brilliant. Unforgiven 3 is brilliant. And then there's 3 good songs to end it. My Apocalypse, Judas Kiss, and Suicide and Redemption. Suicide and Redemption is the, of course, the instrumental track. But this one wasn't produced by Metallica and Rick Rubin, just produced by Rick Rubin, as you can see there. So I think it's a mess. I don't think Rick Rubin really got involved enough. There's great songs in here, don't get me wrong, but there was issues when it went to the mastering stage. It was heavily compressed. There was a lack of dynamic range, and you can hear that listening to the album on CD. I don't know if they've cleaned that up on Spotify or if they've cleaned it up on vinyl. Please let me know in the comments below if you have a version that's cleaned up, but this version doesn't sound good. And of course, this was the height of CDs, so €15.99 for the CD. But yeah, look, for me, this album, it's a good album, but it's not a great album. I think it's got some great moments on it. It should probably go in the second tier. And yeah, look, for songwriting alone, I'm going to put it in ahead of Kill 'Em All. Okay, I think it's got, from a songwriting point of view, it's got better songs than. It's got more better songs than Kill 'Em All. Okay, Kill 'Em All to me is kind of like it's a debut album, right? But to me, it's kind of like a demo. Okay, but this one here is definitely ahead of that. I don't think it's ahead of Load. I think the production on Load makes it stand out. Like if Bob Rock had produced Death Magnetic, I think it would have been amazing. He would have never let the issues happen with the over compression, and he probably would have whipped those other songs that I said were long and drawn out. He would have whipped them into shape with the band, or maybe suggested that they were elsewhere on the album on those first 2 tracks. I think Rick Rubin, because he's not an engineer, he's a kind of visionary producer. I think that was the issue they had on this album. So I think there was a guy called Greg Fiddleman produced or engineered a mix on this album, and they decided to retain him, and he has worked on every Metallica album since as the producer along with Metallica. So back in 2016 then they released this album, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. From a production standpoint, it's definitely a step up from Death Magnetic, but the problem is the songs just aren't there. Hardwired, the title track is weak. Atlas Rise is okay. Now That We're Dead I actually like as a kind of a groove stomping song. Moth Into the Flame, when they played that with Lady Gaga, that was it for me. Just I couldn't enjoy that song anymore. Dream No More, Halo on Fire, Confusion, Mankind. It's very long, drawn out album. They actually have it as a double album over 2 CDs, but it probably could have fit on 1 CD. I think it's okay, to be honest. We should point out, Rob Trujillo is back in the band now after Jason had left. So Bob Rock plays bass on Saint Anger, and Rob Trujillo plays bass on Death Magnetic and onwards. Okay, and he's been with the band ever since and is now their longest serving bassist, which is hard to believe. But yeah, for me, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, I think it is a good album, not a great album. It's definitely better than Reload, so I think I'm going to put it in on the third tier. It's not a completely rubbish album. It's well produced. There are some good songs and good ideas on there, but it's just too patchy for me. So I'm going to put Reload in here, and I'm going to stick Hardwired in here. Okay, I need a little bit more tack for that one. So let me know in the comments below if you're enjoying this, and if you would have any disagreements with me in terms of my album ranking. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, it's great to get feedback on these things, and of course everybody has a different opinion, especially when it comes to Metallica. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I please encourage you to go hit that subscribe button and like the video, because all those things really help me out and I greatly appreciate it. Okay, I think we're up and running now. Hopefully this will stay. It may not. It fell the last time I tried this. Okay, hopefully it'll stay. Okay, so Hardwired to Self-Destruct, because it's a triple album I have with covers on it as well, is the reason why it's such a big box set. Okay, the next one and the final album from Metallica, released in 2023, is this one here, 72 Seasons. And I think this is a return to form. And I know it's always popular to say that with a new album. Oh, the new album or the latest album is amazing because that's the one they're touring at the minute and you're giving it a lot of time and you're listening to it a lot. But I actually genuinely think this is a great album. It does hark back to Kill 'Em All in terms of the songwriting and the ideas. Production's obviously way better. Greg Fiddleman again does a fantastic job producing this one with the band. But I don't think the songs are as strong as Kill 'Em All, because obviously they were younger in Kill 'Em All. So I think it's going to sit in here on the... It's a great album. I do think it's a great album, but I don't think it is as good as any of the previous great albums that I've put in there. So I'm just going to put it in here on the second tier, but it's going to come in at position number 8, okay? And we'll do a quick run through all the albums now when I'm finished this. Hopefully that stays. Okay, so here is my full tiered Metallica ranking. Okay, so coming in last place, 11th place, is Saint Anger. Coming in at 10th is Reload. 9th is Hardwired to Self-Destruct. What do we say? 8 is 72 Seasons. Coming in at 7 is Kill 'Em All. Coming in at 6 is Death Magnetic. Coming in at 5 is Load. Coming in at number 4, Ride the Lightning. Coming in at number 3 at the moment is Injustice for All. Coming in at number 2 is Master of Puppets. And coming in at number 1 for me today is The Black Album. So, as I said, let me know in the comments, what's your favourite Metallica albums, tier ranking from 11 to 1. I'd love to hear some feedback, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye for now.